Hey there! In the last lesson, we had finished up learning about classes, and I had mentioned that I had a little bit of a surprise for you. The surprise is at the beginning of this course, I had told you that this course is not going to include any ES6, really anything. That's one of the newer forms of JavaScript, not supported by all browsers, but pretty much supported by all the major browsers. At least for the last couple of versions as of the middle of 2017. And that support is only going to grow and grow and grow. Well, it turns out I actually lied to you. What I told you, we're not learning ES6, that was the lie. Because all of the classes that we just learned in the last few lessons, that's all new JavaScript. That's not JavaScript Essentials. That's not JavaScript Junior Dev or Intermediate Dev. That is more along the lines of JavaScript for senior developers. Senior developers will be the ones who are writing classes all the time. So by now, you should realize that classes are not scary. They might be hard to wrap your head around at first, but believe me, it gets a lot easier the more you write them. And so some of the methodologies in ES6 are a little bit counterintuitive to what we learned in JavaScript. For example, in a class, when we create a method, we don't write function. In a lot of other programming languages like Python or PHP, you still write the word function in front of your method. And that is so the programming language understands what it is. But in ES6, you don't need to do that because it's smart enough to realize that, oh, those parentheses, that must mean that there's a function here. And if there's a curly bracket after it, it's going to automatically say, oh, it's a function, but it's actually defining the function, so there's no use using the keyword function. I just know what it is. By process of elimination, there's nothing else it could possibly be. So that's the first part of the surprise. The second part of the surprise is, as a front-end developer, you should become very familiar with ES6. Now, this legitimately is not an ES6 course, but the second part of the surprise is your first steps into ES6, if you're brand new to JavaScript, was one of the harder concepts to wrap your head around. It's right up there with promises and asynchronous promises and waiting for your asynchronous calls to all come back and execute them all execute returning code all at the exact same time. We're not going to learn about that in this course, although I said something like that at the beginning of this course too. So you never know. Maybe I'll add a couple lessons later. And I guess arrow functions, which is basically a function that does not allow you to use this keyword, air quotes again, this keyword. And I think we're actually going to get into that a little bit. And I think in the next few lessons, we're going to talk about just some of the ES6 features that you're going to see as a front-end developer. Along those lines are const, basically a variable that can never be changed. So I guess it's technically no longer a variable. And const stands for the word constant. It never changes. There's also let, which is like a variable, but its scope is significantly less than what a regular variable is. But where does that scope end? There are arrow functions, which again, regular functions just without the this keyword. And a lot of the times when you write a regular function, you don't need the this keyword, especially if you're going to be writing classes. Classes are great for the this keyword, but functions, you don't need that because a function just runs a regular function. And so if it doesn't have the this keyword overhead, technically it would be running faster. So those are just a couple of things that we're going to be going over in the next few lessons. I do want you to get familiar with some of the ES6 stuff, and that's why I started you off with one of the harder concepts, because you already knew all the other pieces from JavaScript, and now, by putting them all together, you've actually made not just one or two leaps or steps forward in your programming, in your JavaScript dev career, you've actually made a quantum leap. You've went from regular functions to classes, from old JavaScript to brand new JavaScript. And that is something you should be incredibly proud of. Now, if you don't know everything that we're talking about, don't sweat it. It's only been a few hours. Instead, what I would really recommend is just go ahead and start writing some code. That's when the real practice comes in. Now, I'm going to wrap this up by saying, haha, surprise! You learned a little bit of ES6. You learned the real hard stuff. And I just want to let you know that if you've made it this far, you're doing a hell of a good job. So keep it up. and I look forward to working with you as a developer in the future.